Well, it's a beautiful September morning. Welcome back to the 8th Concession. My name is Natalie. I thought today I would take you around to see how that awful scar from the trenching is doing, because it's been about a week and a half and there have been big changes. So let's go have a look. Look at this. Look at the green. Look at the grass germinating and covering up all that brown. I am so excited. Down here especially, it gets shaded in the afternoon, and here is where the grass seed really sprouted quickly. And it just feels so good to see all that brown being covered by green. Now over here by the house where the slope is, it hasn't come in quite as quickly, and I think that's because this area gets much more sun, so it dries out faster, and the slope, of course, the water will run off more, whereas the flat parts it's kind of pooling. But it is still sprouting. You can see I actually added a bit more grass seed to this area to give it a bit of an extra chance, but it is coming. I don't know if you can see that. But I think today I might put the sprinkler back on this section just to give it an extra helping hand. But down here, that lovely green fuzz. Now, this spot here, this sort of square edge, this is where the old garden was, and this also seems to be a bit slow in coming back, so I might have the sprinkler on this section for a while to make sure this gets good germination. I also want to show you what's going on behind the new garden, so let's walk over there. But first, just look at all that green coming in. Now, I seeded this by hand. One big bag of grass seed, and I just broadcast it out. You know, I don't have a seeder or anything, so that's why I'm so pleased that it's coming. Now over here behind the new garden, you can see I didn't put down grass seed. We've actually put down tarps. Now, I bought this brown tarp thinking it was going to be big enough to do this whole area back here, and then we spread it out and I'm like, wow, this isn't even that big. I think it is that big. I think it's just that the garden is actually bigger than it looks. So anyway, Craig found 2 of our old blue tarps and we added those, and that's to keep all the weeds down for next year when I expand the garden. Here's the back of the new garden, which needs to be cleaned out and weeded, and I want to extend it, and I want to put in 4 more of the concrete block raised beds back here, and then maybe a long one going this way, so 4 more going this way, and then 1 long one back like this, probably for maybe corn or potatoes, the things I used to grow in the old garden. Now behind the tarps here, there's something I wanted to talk about, and that's this tree. So we didn't even know this tree was here in the reeds up until a couple of years ago when Craig was sort of cleaning out behind the new garden. But then we found it. So it's a willow, but it's a pussy willow. It gets the little fluffy things in the spring, and I just really like it. It's a beautiful shape. It's a cute size. But you can see it has some problems. Now, when we found it, wrapped all around the bottom were pieces of white vinyl tarping. We assume that they must have changed the tarping on what we call the slug hut, the Quonset hut here, at some point, or even part of it, and that they dumped the tarp. We think the tree grew on top of the tarp, not that he put the tarp, the old owner put the tarp on the tree. We think the tree actually grew in and around this tarp that was there for I don't know how long. And when we removed the tarp, the bulk of the tarp, it actually filled a large part of a bin we had rented when we were doing our daughter's section downstairs, and we needed a bin for, you know, construction debris. It filled a large part of it, but we couldn't get at some of it because it was literally wrapped around the roots of this tree. And after we removed the tarp, the tree actually fell over. So I don't want to lose it. It is so pretty. So we decided last weekend to make a day and call in some help from my grown daughter and her husband to help us remove as much of the tarp from in and around the roots as we could. And you can see we've propped the tree up, and we're going to find a more permanent solution to try and keep it upright. It does still have good roots, but guys, the debris. We have 2 full chicken bags, and then we're going to need another bag. This is what we were pulling out from under and around the tree. It's so sad. Now, I think there was still some that they couldn't get out. I don't know if we can see that they did an amazing job. I don't even know. They were having to rock the tree up to pull it out. They had knives and spikes and everything, trying not to damage the roots, but to get this out. So off to the landfill this goes, which is also a shame because it's just more plastic that will never break down. I don't even know how old it is. But hopefully we've saved this tree. So part of what I think will help with this tree is we have some really, really large rocks and boulders on this property. And I'm thinking if we put a large boulder on, sorry, the sun's in my eyes, on this side of the tree where it's leaning, we might be able to take the supports out. We have some huge rocks. It's a matter of moving them over here. It's not easy because when I'm talking huge rocks, they're huge. But I'm thinking that might help keep it upright. And once those roots are re-anchored in the ground, and we'll add some more dirt around the base, I'm hoping we'll have saved it. The spring will tell. Part of the leaves up there, it's looking a bit bare on the one side, but we're hoping we saved it. Now on the other side of the tarping and the new garden, we have plans for this spot. Now this is all newly opened. You can see the reeds are making a reappearance. Oh, I find them so frustrating. Now I did seed this over here, but I seeded it about a week later, so it hasn't quite come up yet. But we decided to seed it because we knew it was going to cover itself with something, whether it was weeds or reeds, and we figured if it were grass, then at least Craig can mow it and keep it down. If we just allow the reeds to come back, they have such woody stems, you can't really mow it down. And then of course there's this beautiful maple tree that we found. It was completely surrounded by the reeds, and you can see how tall they are. They are 15 to 20 feet high. It's crazy. So this tree will kind of be the back corner of my new garden, because right in the front here, right beside the fence, is where I'm going to have my greenhouse. Craig is going to build it for me. I bought glass panels from someone who had them posted online. They're from an old, I think, tobacco greenhouse. And it's just the glass. They're 2x2 greenhouse glass panes. And so he's designing the greenhouse around that size of pane. I think it's going to be about 10 by 20 feet long. A decent size. I mean, we have the room, and as long as, I think we bought 225 of the glass panes. So that's going to go right here. Hopefully with a couple of cold frames on this side. So I did seed this because, again, we can mow it until we're ready to put that in. And then behind the greenhouse, so the greenhouse will be here, behind it is where we're going to move those compost bins. They're going to go behind the greenhouse, nice and close to the garden, which is where most of the compostable material comes from. And then this tree will grow bigger, this maple tree, and bring lots of nice shade. So that's what's going to happen here. And then beside the greenhouse over here, we haven't decided whether we're going to move the chicken coop, which you can see sort of to the side of the slug hut, whether we'll move the chicken coop here and have like a chicken paddock with a bit of a tree. Now we have lost 2 chickens to predators, one to a hawk and one to a raccoon. The raccoon dug under the fencing of their run there and just dragged it right out under. And the hawk actually got one that was a free ranging in this area beside the slug hut in the spring. So if we do make this a big chicken paddock, we might put some netting on top just to keep them safe, because this second tree here, which is also beautiful, it's another maple, which will give them lovely shade at the back, will also be the perfect perch for predators to just pick out their snack. Now this was the section we mentioned before where they had to dig the end of the trench that we hadn't expected, and the part that they couldn't smooth out very well. You can see it's extremely rough. No way you can mow this. And when the guy came with the skid steer, it was too wet for even him to get in here. He was worried that he was going to get stuck. So it has been left very rough, and I don't know what we're going to do about it. Now Craig says he can keep the reeds down by using like a whippersnipper type tool. He has one that has a steel cable, a metal string instead of the nylon string, but pretty rough in here. Now those 2 poles are because I have actually planted 2 small willow seedlings, because willows really soak up the water and it's so wet back here. I thought, well, that might help keep this ground a bit drier. And I put the posts there so if Craig does come back here with his whippersnipper, he won't accidentally cut them down. Now let me just walk over here. Ugh. It's a tiny little thing, but the cool thing about this is it's a weeping willow and it's curly. The obliging tree that I got it off of, all the little willow branches curl and weep. So I rooted these. So I rooted 3. This is a small one, and the one over there by the other post, I'm not sure you can see it because it's on the other side of the post, but that's equally as small as this one. And then I have a larger one that's in a pot by the house that I want to put around the pond. But if we can keep these growing, they might help to soak up some of the wetness over here. So this is the only spot we're not sure what we're going to do. Such lovely trees. Those are called trembling aspen. You can see when the wind blows, the leaves tremble. Now the guys with the excavator, or the guy with the excavator, was really good about avoiding the trees. I think we have a couple of larch there as well, and some cedars. And this is another willow. Part of it got destroyed, but I think there's enough of it left that it'll survive. So there you go, an update on how the scar across the landscape is doing and our plans for the area that the trench opened up. And of course, how the grass is coming and the part that we want to restore to lawn. So it's looking good. There's still work to do, but we're excited by the possibilities. Thanks for coming along. Bye for now.